they will be in the playoff hunt. I don't really see it. I think that they're going to miss the playoffs, but one never knows.
Hockey
It's
hockey is
hard
a
to
str-
predict.
hockey is a strange sport to predict. I mean, you look at the Vegas Golden Knights last year compared to this year, so it's always a
Well,
strange thing.
okay, but wait a second. Let me stop you right there. Few teams have had the kinds of injuries and problems that the Vegas Golden Knights have had this year.
Yeah.
It just keeps adding up more and more and more. And Howell's injury looked terrible the other night.
Yes.
Um, I can't. We don't know whether Vegas really would be in this condition at all if they had half of the people out that they have.
Yeah.
It's been horrible for them, and you've got to predict injuries, but to predict this many is unreasonable.
Of
It's just we'll have to see what happens. It's early in the season.
of course. Before we move to the Devils, though, I think one last thing on the Islanders that is definitely going to be interesting, and it's one of their games. I believe it's in February or March. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have it in front of me, but they switched over the game, against the Toronto Maple Leafs from the Barclays Center to Nassau Coliseum. And of course, we know why that's significant is because it would be the return of John Tavares to Nassau Coliseum, but in a Toronto Maple Leaf uniform. What do you expect or what do you expect the reaction is going to be for John Tavares? Now, I know this has been something that it's kind of like we've put in the past now. He signed over with the Maple Leafs. We got all that out of the way for Islander fans. But, and I speak to a bunch of Islander fans, and they understood what he had to do. There's more anger towards the front office and the ownership for not doing a better job in retaining him. But what are you anticipating the reaction to be when he steps foot on the ice in Nassau Coliseum?
Honestly, I expect there to be uh, a video of him, and I expect people mostly to cheer. That's what I expect. I think, I was uh, personally very upset that he left. I thought that he should have. Understand that he was torn, but I was quite upset and angry. And I was angry at him and angry at the front office. However, time heals and understanding comes. And I think that when he steps on the ice at Nassau Coliseum, first of all, the management will uh, try to uh, prepare people for his coming, and they may make a big deal of this. And it's going to be hard for people to really be booing if they make a big deal of it. So if the team actually does something to honor him, that it's going to be hard for fans to actually be there booing and maybe holding up signs. That would be really uncomfortable and certainly inappropriate.
And
So I expect them people to be cheering him actually.
And you could just imagine probably what he would be feeling when he steps foot in there. Probably a lot of emotions for him as well. So we'll just have to wait and see with that. And finally, as we transition over, we talk about the New Jersey Devils. They are one of four teams this season thus far that just have one win on the road. They're not a good road team. They are very good at home, 5-1-1. They sit with a 6-6-1 record, 13 points on the season. They had a pretty good start to their season, but kind of came back down a little bit. But not winning on the road, that's something that needs to change rather quickly for this Devils team. So what is going on with this Devils team, and why has it been a struggle out of the gate?
Okay, this is also not going to be popular to say, but I believe that starting in Europe really hurt them. So it just wasn't good for the team. And I understand that they started off well, but it really sort of discombobulated them. There's also been a change in goaltending. And so Corey Schneider has come back, and some of that has an effect on the team. Also, notice that they have one of the least amount of games played think they've only played 13 games,
Yeah, only 13
as
games.
opposed to most of the teams have played 15. I think there's one team that played as Florida. I think only played 11, but the rest of the teams are up near 15. On top of that, then the I think they only have 4 games at home in November, and most of them are coming up. So they've been away for quite a while. This is tough. They only have one line going. It's the top line. So with Jesper Bratt's injury and Pavel Zacha playing really poorly, and in fact he's been sent to Binghamton, to sort of get his confidence back. And I say that in quotes. Uh, it's been tough. Everybody's been up and down and up and down. They've given a lot of people a try there, and they just need to find a second line. They're really only scoring on their first line. So it's been a confluence of circumstances, and I think this team, it made the playoffs last year, and I think they could make the playoffs this year. It might be the strongest team in the tri-state area, of the 3 teams, that is. And I just think they need a little time, and they need to come home. And they
So
need to settle in.
I was going to ask you a question because of this struggle, and I really thought that it might have been a little far-fetched, but given the fact that we've seen 2 coaches already fired. Now, I'm not implying anything with the Devils. I know John Hines has been on the job, 2 or 3 seasons so far. Do you think more of a slide might tempt or preempt this front office to maybe a change of voice in the room might happen? I mean, listen, I'm only asking it
I
because,
think
like I
it would
said,
be a huge mistake. Okay, I don't think Ray Shero is going to be firing John Hines. John Hines is an outstanding coach, and I think the horses have to get in line here. I don't think it's a problem in the locker room. I think it's a problem with talent, and there still isn't quite enough talent there. And we'll see how it goes, but there's some in the wings, but there's still not enough talent, and we're going to have to wait and see.
and wait and see, we shall.
Well, we've got, we've really, there was a player in Sweden that I really just wish he would have come over this year, Jesper Boquist, and he plays in the SHL, I think, with Brynäs, and he's playing outstandingly. 2 summers ago, I saw him in development camp here, and I saw him this past year, and I just don't understand why he's not here. He is definitely a top 6 player, and he should be playing here next year. Um, Butcher's been having a tough time on the back end, and but that's partly because he's been playing, a revolving door of people who he's playing with. Um, I'm not a great fan of Damon Severson, but not of him personally. I like him personally. I'm talking about his play. I know they signed him to a long-term deal. Uh, I'm not sure that he's anything more than a power play specialist. Andy Green is who is the captain. He's getting a little old, to be honest with you. I'm gonna get hell for this, but he's slowing down a bit. So they need some help here. And I think Sammy Vatanen is growing into himself. Mirko Mueller is also. I think he could be an outstanding defenseman, and he's still growing into the job. So I think it's early for some of these guys. I think they could use some help there. Nico Hischier certainly is valuable addition, and hopefully will keep Hall here when he becomes a UFA. So, but I just think it's going to take time. I think they have a possibility of making the playoffs, but I think that there are pieces missing.
It's just a matter
So
of,
we'll
like you
see.
said, getting the horses in order and getting them going a little bit.
Yeah, getting them in order and getting them in the organization. I think that Ty Smith, who was drafted this year, he looked excellent in training camp. And he's going to be a valuable addition to the defense and the blue line. But they need more. They need more. But you can't do it out of nothing. So it takes time, and as good as Hines can be, he if he doesn't have the horses to play, he can't do it. So I actually think that Hines is an outstanding coach, and I would hate to see him go.
And
I don't know if you've heard a rumor or whatever,
no,
or it was just your
just
own
one of those
thinking.
things. One of those things, because it segues perfectly into the final question that I want to ask you of this podcast, and real quickly get your thoughts on the fact that we've had two coaches fired within a 3-day span, and that came last week. Of course, the more surprising one, Joe Quenneville of the Chicago Blackhawks, and of course John Stevenson of the L.A. Kings. Obviously, we know which one is the more surprising one. The Kings have been off to a dreadful start. They're last with 11 points
Right.
out of that wild card spot. But the Chicago Blackhawks are 6-6-3, 15 points, only 2 points really out of a spot of the wild card, and 4 points out of a spot of at the top of the division. Is that and that's what I wanted to get your opinion on. Is what was the motivation behind this as far as the Blackhawks? This is a guy that won 3 Stanley Cups for them, and a lot of the players, or at least some of the players that we saw give some quotes on, were kind of shocked by it. And so just real quickly, before we end this podcast, what are your thoughts on the 2 coaching firings that we've had so far? And mind you, all of last season, there wasn't one coach fired in the middle of the season or during the season. And we've had
Right.
2 coaches fired in a 3-day span just 15 games into the season.
Well, okay. First of all, I have no idea what the reasoning behind it is. As far as Chicago goes, I think Los Angeles needed a shakeup, something to shake them up. I don't know that it's doing any good, but as far as Chicago goes, Colleton, who is the new coach, he actually was drafted and played in the Islanders organization for years. I don't know if you're aware of that. He's a wonderful young coach who is a hardworking, thoughtful guy. And this is his shot. I don't know if they just wanted someone really young in there to communicate with some of their younger players. I honestly, my mouth was hanging open when I heard about this. So everything I say is speculation, except for the fact that I know that Colleton is a good he's a good choice if you wanted a coach that will deal well with younger players. And he's a very hardworking guy. So I have no idea.
Well, I mean, we're going to see now if it certainly gets these teams at least shooken up a little bit, and then you wonder there is some talent on both teams that if they cannot get things in order, you have to wonder if then certain guys become expendable. So a lot of things to look forward to. But Leslie Treff of New York Sports Day, I thank you so much for joining us here on the New York Hockey Report.
Oh, you're welcome. It's wonderful to be on with you.
And on behalf of Leslie, I am Joe Soccoa, and we thank you for listening to the New York Hockey Report for New York Sports Day. We will see you next time.